Yeehaw. Larken Rose here doing a video about the flat earth thing. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, oh, why would you entertain that? Why would you let anybody bring up that? It's just a distraction. And I totally sympathize with the people who say that, who say it's just a distraction, it's a stupid, ridiculous thing, you can't talk people into it, whatever else. And I totally sympathize with that, and there are a couple reasons I'm doing this anyway. First of all, I think there are a lot of people who are simply ignorant. There's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. And most of us are ignorant about most things, myself included. And so it's no sin to be ignorant in some field of thought. And it doesn't necessarily mean the person's stupid. There's a difference between your brain doesn't work and your brain doesn't have certain information in it. So there's a lot of well-intentioned but misguided people who are being duped by these distractions and silliness, whether or not it's some intentional plan to distract people and make people believe stupid stuff, which it very well may be, or if it's just other ignorant people passing it on. So there's a reason to, I want to help the people who are just being duped by something that sounds interesting and they don't know enough to see through it. But more than that, the main topic here isn't really even the shape of the planet. It's the issue of understanding versus believing, because most people and most things they know, they don't know it. They believe it. And there's a big difference. And the people who believe things assume that everyone else just believes things. They don't think in such a way. They're not used to thinking in patterns that they even know what it means to know something, to prove something. When most people say, this proves it, they mean, I saw enough confusing stuff that I'm persuaded. In mathematics and science, proof actually means something specific. It means logically ruling out any other possibility. It doesn't mean persuading somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. Incidentally, if anybody posts memes or videos or anything under this in either direction on this issue under this, I'm going to delete it. If you can address if you go and rants about anything not related to what I'm actually talking about in this video, I will delete that too. Use your words, whether you're flat earth or round earth, use your words to actually explain things relevant to what I'm going to be talking about. Otherwise, it's going to get deleted because so quickly this turns into a giant pile of noise. Most of what passes for education is memorization. It's not understanding. It's people hear crap, they memorize it, they write it down on a test, they get a good grade. My father was a mathematics and science teacher for a bazillion years. And I know flat earthers will say, oh no, he's in on the conspiracy. I bring it up because he taught in a very unorthodox way. And it's funny because one year he was voted the most students voted for him as their favorite teacher, and the most students voted for him as their least favorite teacher, and for the same reason, which is he didn't teach the way most education teaches, which is you sit there, I'll feed you stuff, you memorize it, you barf it back out on a test, and I'll give you a good grade. He taught people to actually think. He said, here's what we're trying to figure out. I'm not going to tell you how to figure out. You have to figure out how to figure it out, and then figure it out. And he would, help along the way and give hints and stuff, but it was actually creative thinking. And the people who were used to just memorizing and spouting things back, a lot of them were uncomfortable in the class because, this isn't what I'm good at. So they're the ones who didn't like it, and the ones who actually liked to think and figure things out loved it because, wow, I actually understand this because I made it my own, and I actually looked and figured out how, the evidence and the logic, and yeah, now I really know what it is. Most of what people know is not about them knowing anything. They took things on faith and they memorized it and spouted it back. Now, I'm going to say two of the nicest things I can say in favor of flat earth people, the people who believe the earth is flat. If you originally believed that it's spherical because somebody said so and for no other reason, in other words, if you took it on faith that it was spherical and then later you said, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I should question that, good. I'm glad. I want you to be able to question everything, and especially if it was a belief for you, not an understanding. If it was a belief for you, I'm glad you doubt it. However, jumping to a different belief is not an improvement. the improvement over belief is actual understanding. Now, now I'm going to pick on the round earthers, because most of the people who say, of course it's spherical, of course it's round, everybody knows that, they don't know how to prove it either. Most of them took it on faith. And so they're just repeating their faith. Now, most of them may have more sort of anecdotal evidence implying it and indicating it, so they have reason to believe it, but they've never bothered to look into the geometry or the physics or anything and say, well, can I actually prove it? And I like to, sometimes I would, in conversations, go to the round earthers and say, can you actually give a geometric or mathematical proof that the earth is spherical? And most go, no. And that's fine. You're allowed to be ignorant of that. Most people are on both sides of the argument. They don't really know how to prove it either way. They have lots of reasons. Well, there are flights over there, and we have satellites and GPS, and so they have this collection of stuff that to them indicates something, but that is not what a scientific proof actually is. And so today I'm going to give an actual proof that the earth is not flat, and I mean a proof in the scientific sense, and I'm not going to rely on anything you have to believe NASA for, or textbooks or anybody else. You believe your own eyes, and that's it. And because it's not that difficult to do if you actually know how to do it. And so many people, again, it's people projecting their own ignorance when they say, you just believe what NASA says because they did. What they're saying is they took it on faith that it was spherical when somebody told them that, and they're assuming everybody else did too. So they say, well, if you never looked into it, you've never researched it, you've never blah, 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 blah. What they mean is they never thought about it. They never understood it. They never examined it. And they're projecting on everybody else the same thing, which is amazingly arrogant to say. And people do this in science all the time when they say, there's no way to know that. Okay, we have a big rectangle, and this one is 87 feet long, and that side is 13 feet long. What's the diagonal? Well, there's no way to know that without measuring it. Well, thanks to Pythagoras, there's a very easy way to know it. But if you don't know how to know it, okay, that's just ignorance. But if you proclaim, nobody in the world knows how to do this, how to figure this out, because I don't, that is ignorant and arrogant at the same time. And what flat earthers, I constantly see them doing is, there's no proof of this. It's all just theory and conjecture. What they mean is, they don't understand the proof, so they don't know if there is one. But to declare that there isn't one because you don't know about it is ridiculously ignorant. There are proofs. There are piles of proofs. I'm about to show you a very simple one. And then the question is just, how invested are you in your belief? I don't want you to be invested in I don't want you to believe that the earth is spherical. I don't want you to believe that it's flat. I want you to actually understand what you're looking at when you open your eyes looking at the world and be able to prove it. Prove it to yourself and prove it to other people. Now, before I do the actual proof, it's amazing how often flat earthers, they basically use their own ignorance as proof that the world is flat. And I don't mean they think it's flat because they're ignorant. I mean, they will actually use their own ignorance as the proof, because they'll say, but what about this? How do you explain this? How do you explain that thing? What they're saying is, I don't know how to explain this, I don't know how to explain this, I don't know how to explain this, therefore, that's the conclusion. You not knowing how to explain or prove or solve something is not proof that anything is true or false. Well, it's proof that you're ignorant in certain areas, but other than that, it's not proof of anything. And yet that's usually their thing. I'll give an example. There's a video called 200 Proofs that the Earth is flat, or that it's not spherical. I forget which one. And it's 200 examples of people who don't understand anything about geometry. A lot of them have to do with the fact that flat earthers don't know what the words down and level mean. They all the way don't know what they mean. If this is the Earth, the round Earth crazy theory, they think that is down. It's not. Down means towards the center of the planet. So a bunch of their complaints are, well, water always finds its level. It won't stay in a ball. It'll go down. And that's true, if you understand what down means. They say, well, the pilots who fly planes, they should have to tip the nose down to make up for the curvature of the Earth. No, you don't understand what down means. Well, when you're building a road, you don't have to account for the curves because you don't understand what down means. Down means towards the center of mass of the planet. Level means perpendicular to down. So on a planetary scale, this is level. This is what's level. Yes, water finds its level, and this is the level because down is towards the center of mass. And half of the proofs were just demonstrations that flat earth people don't know what down and level mean. And if you understand, oh yeah, you don't have to change the road because if you keep the road level and that's the center of the earth, it very gradually makes a circle. If you can make a road around the whole freaking world, all of it would register as level and it would make a circle because down is towards the center of mass of the planet. It's not down like this. Same thing with water finding its balance and a bunch of other things like that. But when they spout out these things, how do you explain this? How do you explain that? They're just demonstrating that they don't know how to explain things, which is fine. But to use that as proof of something, I can't explain A and B and C, therefore D is true. That's just crappy logic. So I'm going to show you actual proof. Again, using a thing that you don't have to take my word for anything. You only have to believe your own eyes. If you know anybody anywhere who's a significant distance east or west of you, do a simple experiment where you hang a yardstick. You suspend it so it points straight down on a sunny day, and you hang from the ground and you see how long its shadow is. And you mark the shadow on the ground and you measure it. And let's say this guy here says, all right, the shadow is about 1.5 feet long. If that's a yard, maybe the shadow is 1.5 feet long. And then you call somebody significantly east or west of you, somebody who can see the sun at the same time, and you say, first of all, how far away are you from me? Second of all, do the same experiment. Hold up a yardstick and hold it so it's hanging straight down, right at ground level, measure the length of the shadow. So let's say this guy says, well, I have a 4-foot shadow. Well, I have a 1.5 foot shadow. Now, if you do the simple geometry, you don't need to use sines and cosines and all that equation. I mean, you can use them if you know how to, or you can do it the old way. You can triangulate and find the exact height of the sun based on this distance, how far apart you are from your buddy on the phone, and based on the length of the shadows, you can make a triangle, no matter how long these shadows are. Now, I'm going to do the easiest possible example that makes the math really damn simple. It's a version of that, but it's as easy as you can get. Now, the math gets really, really, really easy if you're at the equator. If you're north or south of the equator, then you have to take into account the fact that it's, you know, you're looking a little bit south down at the sun because it won't be all the way overhead. But I'm going to use the example of Maine. Let's say you're in Maine, and you say, all right, right about now, I'm going to call my buddy when the sun's directly overhead. And it isn't really directly overhead, it's south. But it's overhead as far as east and west. It's only south. It's at the top of its arch in the sky. And you're in Maine, and you say, okay, my shadow is as little as it gets. It's not at all, there's no shadow going east or west of that. I'm going to call my buddy in Death Valley, California, because that's about 3,000 miles. It's a little short of that, but close enough. We're going to do the simplest math and say, hey, buddy, would you mind doing this experiment where you hold up a yardstick and measure the shadow it makes? And your buddy in Death Valley, California, while you're doing this live on the phone, will say, well, I measure it, and as it happens, my yardstick casts a shadow that's about a yard long. Now, I'm going to use rough numbers here. The accuracy doesn't even particularly matter. You know, we can have a 50% margin of error, and it would still be good, and we're much better than that. So your buddy in California says, my shadow is a yard long, and you're saying, I don't have a shadow at all. That makes the math ridiculously easy, because if this distance from you to him is 3,000 miles, and the sun is directly over you, because you're pointing up to it, and his shadow is 3 feet long, that's a perfect 45-degree angle. That means from his shadow, he's looking at 45 degrees up to the sun, you're looking straight up to the sun, and therefore those two lines determine where the sun is. And like I said, this is the simplest the math gets. If that's 3,000 miles, and this is a 45-degree angle, then this is 3,000 miles. which means if the Earth is flat, you and your flat Earth buddy just proved that the sun is 3,000 miles off the ground. Cool, nifty, spiffy, works fine. Excellent, good job, very scientific of you. You can do this yourself, it's really frickin' easy. Then you call your buddy in Hawaii. Here's another 3,000 miles, not quite that far, but close enough for our measurements here. And you ask your buddy in Hawaii, hey, buddy in Hawaii, can you do this experiment? Hold up a yardstick and measure its shadow and say, but wait, we flat earthers are so in the know and so understanding, we're going to tell you what you're going to find. You're going to find that you're looking at the sun at about a 20-some degree angle in the sky, and your shadow will be about 6 feet long. Because for you it was 0, for him it was 3 feet, for him it'll be about 6 feet. It'll cut this angle in half. It won't be that sharp. It'll be a 20-some degree angle in the sky. And you say, this is awesome. We're going to tell you ahead of time, we the understanders of the flat earth, what you will find when you do this experiment. And your buddy in Hawaii will say, sorry, dude. The sun is at the horizon. It's at 0 degrees. It's just coming up over the ocean right now. My shadow is infinite. It goes forever. It goes all the way off the island because the sun is straight across from me. That is called a proof that the earth is not flat. Because if these people were in a straight line, and this is 3,000 miles, and this is 3,000 miles, this guy would see the sun there. He doesn't see the sun there. Call him and ask if he sees the sun there. He won't. He will see it over there, which doesn't work on this model. This picture is false, because this line and this line and this line don't intersect anywhere. If you just ask the Hawaii guy and this guy, oh, where's the sun? He'd say, it's sitting on top of your frickin' head because you're looking up and I'm looking straight across. The sun is basically your hat. And if you talk to this guy and this guy, their lines don't intersect at all. It's like, well, that's utterly impossible. You're seeing it up in the sky. I'm seeing it below you. It doesn't freaking work. That's called a proof that the earth is not flat. So what actually explains what we see when we do this experiment? When you do this experiment with your buddies and your cell phones and your yardsticks. Golly gee, here's the guy in Maine who points straight up to look at the sun, well, a little bit south, but as far as east and west is concerned, straight up. Here's the guy in Death Valley, California who points, here's how he's standing, he points at a 45-degree angle to a sun really, really, really frickin' far away in that direction. Now the Hawaii works. He's pointing flat to the horizon, and it's really dang far away. This model actually matches what you see when you walk out your frickin' door and look in the sky. The flat earth model doesn't. It is provably false. Now, we're not done there, because you, on a daily basis, have more evidence that the earth is not frickin' flat. For this, I'm going to throw this around a little bit. Yadee-dee-dee-dee. And I'm going to bring you up. Oh, first of all, so you can see this, this is my flat earth map. Wait, let me move this so you can see more of it. Here's my flat earth map. This is what flat earthers think the earth is shaped like. Now, I just scribbled it, obviously. The South Pole is actually this humongous ring that goes around everything. North Pole is in the middle. Here's South America, North America, Africa. You can tell how much effort I put into these drawings. Here's the equator. Now, according to them, the sun is going around in a circle over the equator about 3,000 miles up. Now, depending on when they do their calculations, they argue with each other about how high up it is, but I just had you do the proof of the simple math version that if it's a flat earth, it's 3,000 miles off the ground. Okay, so here we have the flat earth model. Here's the outside, here's the equator, so this is what they say the sun goes around. La-dee-dee, la-da-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, la-dee-dee. Here is your view. Here's your view. I'm putting you at the tip of South America. See this sun? This is about the height it would be at. Here we are. Ta-da. It's at the equator's right here. This is about 3,000 miles up. Here's what the sun would do. Do you notice anything suspicious? Do you notice two suspicious things? Here's what the sun would do if you were at the tip of South America on a flat planet looking up. Number one suspicious thing that's kind of hard to miss, the sun doesn't ever set. If the world was flat, at no point would the sun ever set for anybody anywhere on the whole frickin' planet. Is that what you observe when you go out and see the sun? Item number two. Do these look the same size? Guess what? They are the same size. Do they look the same size? No. Because if something is twice as far away from you, it looks half as big. And if you remember the drawing I did of the three people in Maine and California and Hawaii, the guy in Hawaii is looking over 6,000 miles to the sun, where the guy with the sun straight over him is only looking at 3. Does the sun get less than half as big at the end of the day? Nope. And you can take pictures and you can see, oh, it's the same frickin' shape. It's the same frickin' size the whole day. Do these look like the same size? Because guess what? They freaking are. Does this look like what the sun does in the sky? No, because it frickin' doesn't. Now, it's even better if you're on the equator. And by the way, as it happens, the Acapulco is close enough to the equator to be a great example. If you're on the equator, you will see the sun directly overhead. It will never get closer to the horizon than this, ever, according to the flat Earth model. Which means you'll see a huge sun overhead, and then you'll see it go way in the distance over here and get really little, and then come back and go over your head. It will never get closer to the horizon than this, and it'll get really damn small. If you're in Acapulco, is that what you see? No, it's not. You see a sun that looks the same frickin' size the whole time, come up in the east, go straight over you, and go down in the west. It doesn't match the flat Earth model. Again, none of this required you to believe anybody's pictures, anybody's equations, anything. It's the simplest frickin' math in the world. This is not reality. It is provably not reality. Now, in a sense, who cares? And a lot of people are saying, like, why even bother with this? Like, the people who talk about that don't understand enough for it to even be worth arguing about. I have to mention, some people declare that, well, the reason for that is the sun is really a spotlight that shines on a piece of it. If you saw a spotlight in the sky going like this, it wouldn't stay the same size and set. It would disappear as you got outside the cone. Try it with a frickin' spotlight. Do you see the sun in the sky getting little and disappearing? No, you see it the same frickin' size going below the horizon, which is absolutely impossible on this crappy model, because this crappy model is false, and provably false. And people have known this for thousands and thousands of years, but enough people are ignorant and believe things that they were taught that then when they get taught something else, a different assertion, and they go, well, that sounds cool, I'm going to believe that they fall for it. And it's frustrating as hell to watch decent, gullible people mistaking believing for understanding and using their own ignorance as proof of something. Now, I'm going to throw in a couple things. Here's a thing that flat earthers will actually like. Often they bring up the thing about the moon landing. Notice nothing I did required anything about the moon. Doesn't matter what it is, where it is, for this proof that the earth isn't flat. When people say, well, do you think we landed on the moon? I don't actually know. I always assumed we did. I think it's possible to. However, I know that governments lie a lot, and in the space race against the Russians, I could totally see a bunch of bureaucrats saying, you know, it's going to be cheaper and easier to fake it than it is to actually do it. Let's do that. I have no idea if that's what they did. I understand the physics of what it would take, whether they actually pulled that off. I don't know. I also don't particularly care, because I don't need their pictures of the moon. Oh, incidentally, when people say the moon isn't flat and you have no way to prove otherwise, there's a very, very, very easy way to prove otherwise. Call your buddy in California, if you're in Maine. Call somebody far east or west of you. Have them take a picture of the moon at the same time you take a picture of the moon. And then put the pictures side by side. And if you know how to cross your eyes, you will absolutely and completely see, beyond any frickin' doubt, the spherical nature of the moon. It's called a stereogram. You can look it up online. Look up stereogram moon, and if you can cross your eyes, you get to see the spherical moon. It is not debatable. The fact that maybe you didn't know how to prove that doesn't mean nobody knows how to prove that. And that is the ultimate ignorance, is to decide that because you don't understand something, then nobody does. And so, why do I bother doing this video? In part because I think there are people gullible who are falling for crap who are merely ignorant, and it's not a sin to be ignorant. Ignorant doesn't equal stupid. Now, there's a lot of things you can't explain if if you're trying to believe in flat Earth, and their argument boils down to, again, a list of their own ignorances. Like, I don't know how to explain A, B, C, or D. Therefore, it's flat. No, therefore maybe you should learn to understand things, because when you understand things, oh, they actually make sense. And by the way, when you're really far up north or really far down south, sometimes the sun will stay in the sky for days and days and days, or be gone from the sky for days and days and days, which is because the Earth is tilted on an axis. And if the sun's over here and the Earth is here spinning this way, and you're at the North Pole, you will see the sun the whole freaking time. And if you're on the South Pole, you won't see it at all for days and days until you come back around and the axis is more in line. That makes perfect sense. Is there any accounting for that in the flat Earth model? Nope, not the slightest. This is basic geometry that people have understood for centuries. And the fact that a lot of people today don't understand it is kind of sad. Again, people can be ignorant. It's not the end of the world. If people understand, don't commit aggression against other people, I don't particularly care how much they know about geometry and stuff. However, when they fall for this stuff and allow themselves to be duped, and then they go out as if they're in the know when they literally don't know what it means to know something, that's frustrating to watch. As somebody who likes math and science, and I mean actual science, like the scientific process, not any old crap packaged and has the label of science stuck on it, because there's a lot of garbage that says, well, this counts as science about all sorts of issues. So I don't mean anything that science says. Science isn't a person. It's not an institution. It's a method of figuring stuff out. And lots of people totally suck at that. So the reason I did the video is I don't want gullible people falling for this. Second, I want people to understand the difference between believing and understanding. And third, it will be a test for who actually clings to something provably false. I just gave an actual proof that the Earth is not flat, that model is provably bogus, that you can do yourself. You don't have to take NASA's word for it. You don't have to believe a textbook. You don't have to do anything else. And you can do it at one point during the day. You don't even, it's something you personally witnessed every single day, that model does not explain the world. Now, if after seeing that, people make up excuses and say, what about this, what about that, what about the other thing? So now you have a proof on one hand and then listing areas in which they're ignorant. That's a sign that they're it's a faith-based delusion, that they are actually clinging to it because they like it. They like to think they're in the know, and haha, I saw behind an even bigger conspiracy. No, you just fell for a lie and never understood it. You never understood it when you thought it was round. You never understood it when you thought it was flat. And you assume nobody else did either. And so much of science is like this. People say, there's no way to determine X, whatever it is. It's like, just because you don't know it doesn't mean nobody else knows how to do it. And so that's the level of arrogance you see from the most vocal flat earthers, is they don't know how to do the simplest proof, and they assume nobody else does. So they talk as if it's all theory, it's all conjecture, none of this is proven. Yes, it's proven. I just friggin' proved it using zero math and zero having to rely on textbooks and NASA or anything like that. But you have to understand at least the basics of geometry. Notice I didn't even use trigonometry. If you know sines and cosines, there are easier ways to do it, because that's what that stuff is for. I didn't even use that. I didn't even need that. So this now becomes a test of how many people can actually substantively respond to what I said. As I said at the beginning, if you post memes and videos I'm going to delete them. If you post rants about anything other than the actual topic of this, I'm going to delete it. I want any flat earther to explain in their own words why the evidence that I just pointed to, that you can go see yourself on a daily freaking basis, doesn't at all match the new thing that they believe as opposed to the old thing that they believe. And I'm not going to bother arguing this anymore. I will leave this video up. It's a live thing, but it stays up after I record it so people can see it in the future. Mostly what I'm going to be doing is deleting people saying, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing that has nothing to do with what I just showed? Because that's all they have, is a laundry list of things they don't understand. And when you explain one, they'll just jump to another thing they don't understand. And lucky for them, they don't seem to have a limit to the number of things they don't frickin' understand. So when you explain one and say, this is why that is, this is why planes don't have to like gradually tilt down because level is the circle. Oh, well, what about this? Like, okay, if you're doing an infinite list of things that you don't understand, that's not proof of anything. This is a very simple proof that the Earth is not flat. And there are lots of others you could do. There's literally dozens you could do. This is about the simplest one I know that requires like no math and no understanding and no taking anybody's word for anything. So then it's just a test of whether people are so attached to this new cool fad thing, now I found out the Earth is flat, that they will all the way ignore evidence that they can see every single day walking out their door. Do you see the sun going like this in the sky, getting really little and close to the horizon and then really big and right over you? No, you don't. You see this. It comes up, it's the same size, goes down on the other side. Maybe it's an arc, and one side or the other, if you're north or south of the equator, that's what you actually see. If you understand anything about geometry, you can go, oh yeah, the flat Earth model doesn't explain that. If you have a model you believe in that all the way doesn't explain the evidence that you have personal access to on a daily basis, and you still cling to it, then you're really not worth talking to. That's all. Time for me to go delete a whole bunch of irrelevant garbage that people are probably posting. Have a nice day.